all our viewers who have joined us for this exciting development in the education sector in the Eastern Caribbean. My name is Alicia Ali, and I will be your host for this signing ceremony and press launch of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning, or as we like to call it, the OECS Pearl. Before we begin our program for today, I would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Didicus Jules, the Director General of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, as well as Honorable Octavia Alfred, the Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence from the Commonwealth of Dominica, Marcellus Alberton, Grant Manager at the OECS Commission, all of the OECS Ministers for Education, as well as their permanent secretaries, chief education officers, directors of education, national focal points, and also our Global Partnership for Education, our GPE country representatives, our education development partners, and members of staff of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Commission, our commissioners, as well as the Caribbean Union of Teachers, our principals associations, representatives of the OECS national colleges and our student bodies, parents, students, teachers, the media, and our esteemed viewers on the OECS Facebook and YouTube pages. Remember, you can post your questions and comments to our social media platforms. And for those of you who are in our Zoom webinar, you can use our question and answer tab at the bottom of your screen. Now, I know you've heard me do this very long introduction, so without further ado, please allow me to invite the Honorable Octavia Alfred, the Commonwealth of Dominica's Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence to address us.
Dominica, like many other OECS territories, has recently experienced a surge in cases of COVID-19, which puts immense pressure on the education sector. The health risk necessitates a transition to distributed learning with a blend of face-to-face and online learning, among other modalities. Principals and teachers require continuous support to meet these new demands. The Ministry of Education has answered the call and is providing the technologies as well as the expertise to guide teachers to meet the needs of students. As we prepare for the start of learning on October 4th, 2021, we are engaging our principals and teachers in training to build on the skills they have acquired since the start of this pandemic. The training aims to ensure that our children are engaged in dynamic online learning that involves a range of creative and innovative approaches to teaching and instruction. We recognize that more resources are needed to increase the quality of teaching and learning, and ministries of education across the OECS continue to explore the financial and technical support options in spite of the challenges being experienced. While welcoming the support of international agencies and friendly governments, we recognize that the education of our children is first and foremost our business as individual states within the OECS. We will therefore redouble our efforts to secure and increase national budget support for investments in the education sector and to complement these gains with support from our partners and key stakeholders in the private and the NGO community. Dominica is proud to have participated in the conceptualization and design of the OECS Pearl, and we remain confident that the program is designed to meet the needs of the people of Dominica and the wider OECS. The OECS Commission was an obvious choice to serve as grant agent, and we are proud to have contributed to this accomplishment by the Commission and our ultimate partner in education in the OECS. The Ministry of Education, Dominica, looks forward to the gain to be realized through the OECS Pearl and thanks all those involved at the global partnership level, at the regional level, and at the national level in making this program a reality. We are ready to work to implement this program and bring the values to our citizens, most especially the children of Dominica and the wider OECS region.
Thank you. As Minister Alfred so aptly put it, more is needed to increase the quality of teaching and learning in the region now more than ever, as the region is adjusting to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. That is what the OECS Commission and the Global Partnership for Education is working towards. Remember, you can have your say. Send us your questions and comments on the OECS Facebook and YouTube channels, or if you're in our Zoom webinar, just drop your questions and comments into the question and answer tab. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome the Director General of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, Dr. Didicus Jules, to deliver remarks.
Honorable Ministers of Education, Permanent Secretaries, Chief Education Officers or Directors of Education where appropriate, National Focal Points, GPE Developing Partner Country Representatives, Education Development Partners, OECS Commissioners, Caribbean Union of Teachers, Principals Association, representatives of OECS National Colleges, student bodies, parents, students, and teachers, the media. Education in the OECS has benefited from major strides, virtually all of which involve multiple lines of collaboration across member states in matters like education statistics, curriculum and assessment, including national examinations and teacher training. The OECS Commission promotes the power of the collective with various governance and technical groups that bring together educators from member states to jointly tackle issues in education. The real strength of the OECS lies in this capacity to bring together the best expertise from all member states to focus on common challenges and to shape collective aspirations. The pandemic has heightened the need for a united front, and OECS territories have responded by supporting each other through this difficult period with joint procurement to reduce costs, joint strategy development for reopening schools, and approaches to online learning, and the development of instructional content to support distributed learning models. The benefit of this approach has been obvious to all. Working together, we are stronger together, because we are able to do more with less. We are able to go deeper and further because of the combined expertise and intellectual power that we flex. And we are able to create something that is bigger than the national, richer than the regional, and even challenging the international. The priorities of the region at this time involve: 1, strengthening the resilience of the education system through the development of an instructional content and engagement program that will support teaching and learning, whether in face-to-face or online learning modalities. Secondly, assisting with devices and reliable internet to allow for multiple learning opportunities regardless of the existing circumstance. The region's policies and strategies must support a systemic transformation that guarantees continuity and indeed acceleration of learning in the new confluence of context and circumstance that we now live. In that situation, it must necessarily give priority to the needs of the marginalized, the dispossessed, and the children of those groups who have performed relatively poorly at the end of the primary and secondary cycle, and whose opportunities have been even more affected by current crises. The $10 million grant from the Global Partnership for Education to implement this new education program, the OECS Program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning, or OECS Pearl, is significant in designing an intervention that targets pre-primary to primary school learners. Early childhood education and special education will get specific attention, as will the OECS Harmonized Primary Curriculum. In the context of regional integration, in which OECS citizens have free movement, a harmonized education system is critical in smooth transitions from one school in one country to another within the OECS. Consistency of teacher quality across territories is equally important for the same reason, and the support that this program will give to school leaders is targeted at achieving the highest standards of teaching excellence that we can and must offer. The OECS Commission serves as a grant agent to Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines on behalf of the Global Partnership for Education. This means that countries will implement the OECS Pearl in keeping with our financial, procurement, and other policy guidelines. The Commission is proud of achieving certification from the GPE to serve as grant agent to the OECS states, because this attests to the integrity of our governance and accountability systems, that they are up to international standards, and that we are accepted as a trusted manager of GPE resources in support of member states. We have sought and secured GPE support to extend some of the benefits from this program to non-GPE countries in the OECS. And we continue to strenuously advocate for the inclusion of all OECS member states in the membership of the GPE. I am proud to represent Latin America and the Caribbean on the board of the Global Partnership, which is increasingly becoming the major mechanism for educational transformation across the world and is particularly responsive to the needs of developing states. I wish to end by appealing to all stakeholders to join hands, heads, and hearts with us in undertaking the agile transformation of the education systems of the OECS. Our approach to harmonization is not a one-size-fits-all imposition, but a collective aggregation of our ambitions that encourages country innovation and takes account of country-specific nuances. In calling on stakeholders, we are not simply addressing ministries of education, teachers, and persons within the system, but importantly, parents, students, development partners. Education is everybody's business and therefore requires a whole of society effort. We can do this and we must do this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jules, always the passionate educator. That was quite a comprehensive overview of the regional education sector's collective progress. And I, along with all of our stakeholders and partners, are truly excited to see the benefits of the OECS Pearl. Certainly, it will take a collective effort to drive our education sector forward. So raise your hand if you're willing to tell you more about this initiative. I now hand over once again to Dr. Jules.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Minister Octavia, Minister King, other ministers online, colleagues all. It is a pleasure to introduce this video, which is part of a global effort being undertaken by the Global Partnership for Education. It has been about a year now that we've launched this campaign called Raise Your Hand for Education. Raise Your Hand, Fund Education. Because we are attempting to raise $6 billion in order to support education guarantees for children across the world, particularly in cases as we have been smitten by COVID, the pandemic, and also with a focus on countries that are in situations of conflict, countries that are underdeveloped, small island developing states. The OECS itself has received at least $10 million in recent times from the GPE for our COVID response mechanism across the member states. So it's a great pleasure. We wanted to do our video differently and focus on the children talking, whereas throughout the world, different raise your hand videos have been done. They've usually used prominent citizens, educators, ministers of education. In this case, we have asked the children to speak for themselves. Just as they raise their hand in class, we're asking that you raise your hand for education. So welcome to this video.
I am a child. I love life. I am unique. I am special. I raise my hand to learn. Do you see me? Do you see my hand? Show me your hand. Raise your hand so that I can learn. I raise my hand to share my ideas. You raise your hand to shape them. I raise my hands with questions. You raise your hands with answers. I raise my hand for help. You raise your hand to help. I raise my hand for funding. You raise your hand in support. Raise your hand for education.
This presentation is brought to you by the OECS Commission in support of the Global Partnership for Education Raise Your Hand initiative.
Let us all raise our hand. Now, the moment we have all been waiting for, the official signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with 4 OECS member states, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This will officially launch the OECS Program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning, or the OECS Pearl, funded by the Global Partnership for Education. We now are going to take in a video of our virtual signing. And we are so very pleased to have from Dominica, Honorable Octavia Alfred, Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence, the Commonwealth of Dominica. Then we have from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Curtis King, Minister for Education and National Reconciliation. We move now to Grenada, where Honorable Mr. Kevin Andel, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Education in Grenada, is affixing his signature. And from St. Lucia, we have the Honorable Sean Edward, the Minister of Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training. And for the OECS Commission, we have the Director General of the OECS, Dr. Didacus Jules. Fantastic and exciting times. So just before we move into our live question and answer segment, let's learn a little bit more about the OECS Pearl.
Early childhood education is critical to a child's development. Yet, within the OECS, children from lower income families are often at a disadvantage. The US $10 million GPE grant and the new education program it funds will help address that. The grant is a result of collaboration by the OECS Commission, the Ministries of Education, and the OECS development partner, the Global Partnership for Education, GPE. It has been named the OECS Program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning, or OECS Pearl for short. The OECS Pearl has four main components to this program: quality and equity of access to early childhood development and special education needs services, curriculum and assessment, leadership and management, program management, institutional strengthening, monitoring, and evaluation. The grant is therefore a critical strategic investment. As grant agent, the OECS Commission will oversee implementation from July 2021 to June 2025. OECS Director General Dr. Didacus Jules says the grant will facilitate a radical transformation of the education sector to achieve the OECS vision, every learner succeeds.
What the grant does is provide the opportunity for the region to reframe and to reshape its education system. It provides an opportunity for us to address some of the most outstanding issues and the challenges that have confronted the education system across the region, while also extending the gains from other major initiatives such as the USAID Early Learners Program.
GPE, a multi-stakeholder partnership, is the largest global fund solely dedicated to transforming education in lower-income countries. Talia Miranda de Chez-Martin is the Eastern Caribbean Senior Education Specialist with the GPE, and she says that the OECS is leading the way globally in their move to transform education in their countries, and that the GPE is pleased to be a principal partner.
And whereas the global partnership is constantly asking itself, what are the best ways that countries in the partnership globally can learn from one another and tackle common challenges together? Here in the Eastern Caribbean, this is already the status quo. And so really we are learning from you and learning with you. And there's no doubt in my mind that the regional approach in the OECS with thoughtful implementation will accelerate the pace of development in the Eastern Caribbean.
Minister of Education in Grenada, Honorable Emmeline Pierce, says this assistance comes at a time when it is most needed.
As you are well aware, we are struggling financially to meet the demands as it relates to the impact of COVID-19. And while education remains a top priority for government, the reality is that revenues have dropped so low that it is impacting the education system in a negative way. So this support is going to go a long way in helping us to sustain the level of development that we want to see in our education sector.
There are 5 major program benefits: upgraded public primary school spaces to allow for more child-centered classrooms, assistive devices to support the teaching learning of students with special educational needs, clear standards to guide support and accountability for quality teaching, learning, and leadership, enhanced primary school curriculum along with early grade literacy and numeracy assessments, and professional development in early childhood, special needs curriculum development, school leadership, and monitoring and evaluation. The OECS Program for Educational Advancement and Relevant Learning, Pearl, places the OECS sub-region on a clear and realistic trajectory to achieving the vision of the OECS education sector strategy, where every learner succeeds.
Are you excited? I am so excited to see the benefits of the OECS Pearl. I mean, honestly, we have done so much work in the education sector in the Eastern Caribbean, and this is just another new and exciting development. So now let's move into our question and answer segment. Members of the press who are on the webinar, if you raise your hand, I will call on you and our administrator will give you permission to open your microphone. So let us begin. The first question I will direct to our OECS grant manager, Marcellus Albertin. Mr. Albertin, are you here with us? Yes,
I'm
he is.
here.
Fantastic. So, Mr. Albertin, the question is, why is the program focused on 4 countries, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and not on all the OECS member states?
Well, thank you, and good morning to all on the call. Good morning, ministers and colleagues from the OECS. The 4 members that have been mentioned so far, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Lucia, are in fact all GP member states. All right, they are part of a global community of 70 countries worldwide who are part of members of the GP. And the reason that they have been selected by the GP to join the partnership is because there is a formula that the GP uses for its membership, yeah? And that formula is essentially an income-based formula, which says that the most economically deprived country, and that is based on the GDP per capita, it is those countries, first and foremost, that are welcome into the membership. But there are other variables in the formula that the GP uses. The variables, for example, that deals with the level of conflict that exists in the country. For example, we are all aware of what happens in Afghanistan at this point in time. And so given the fact that so many children are displaced, so many children are out of school, countries like Afghanistan who are in conflict and they're terribly affected by wars and so on would be included. But you have other things that are also taken care of. For example, recently the GP has added, they've added school performance, for example. So those countries where school performance is relatively low, that is factored into the formula. So it's a number of various factors that have determined the membership. And the main reason why the other members of the OECS, for example, Anguilla, Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, and so on, are not included because of the fact that they don't qualify based on the criteria that have been set. One thing I need to add with regard to the overseas territories, that is, they are essentially colonies of the British. And essentially, they would not qualify to be members of the partnership.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albertin. So now we have a second question, and it is very relevant. How will this program be implemented in light of the current COVID-19 related challenges? That is, school not being able to do face-to-face instruction, lack of online access for students and teachers, lack of access to devices, etc. So, Marcellus, are you able to take that one?
Well, I will attempt it. And to say that what this program does, it continues what is already in place at many of our member states. As you would have heard from the minister from Dominica, Minister Octavia earlier, is that there are initiatives ongoing in all our Caribbean member states to engage in multiple learnings, multiple modalities for learning. We continue with the face-to-face wherever this is necessary, and whenever and wherever the situation prevents the face-to-face modalities, arrangements are made by the various member states to facilitate online learning. I need to tell you that the GP, the Global Partnership for Education, has been very supportive of the member states as well as other GP partners to support online learning through an accelerated COVID accelerated fund. And I know that our country has benefited from a $3 million facility to support that online learning. Through this facility, several devices have been or will be purchased and distributed to many of our member states. But additionally, it's not only about devices, it's only about helping our teachers navigate through this very, very difficult process. As you know, many of our teachers are not familiar, have not been involved in online learning modality. And so they have to be brought on board. They have to be trained, they have to learn how to develop content and how to deal with the difficult task of teaching via online. I mean, we've heard all the stories of teaching to a class that is essentially not there. You know, and how do you ask questions? How do you get children to respond? How do you assess virtually? It's a difficult task. It's a difficult time for our education, our teachers. And through this grant facility and through other facilities, we're trying to help our teachers navigate through these difficult times.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albertine. Dr. Jules, you have an extensive educational background, and our viewers would have heard me refer to you as a passionate educator earlier in the program. This question is for you. Who stands to benefit most from this program?
Well, the focus of this program is essentially on learners and on learning, ensuring that all learners across the OECS succeed. We are deeply conscious of the disruption of learning that has happened, particularly as a result of COVID. Pre-COVID, we have had challenges with the differentiation of learning by socioeconomic status. There are a range of factors that affect students' ability to learn, and efforts had been made pre-COVID to address some of the deficiencies in teaching and learning that was happening throughout the system. Now that we have had to face the consequences of the pandemic and we recognize the disruption of learning that has happened, contrary to many perception in the public square, that the challenge is one of ensuring that children are able to sit exams and that they are able to complete a syllabus. We are saying this is not the real challenge. The real challenge is the impact of this pandemic caused by the disruption of learning on the cognitive and emotional development of our children and our learners. So the focus, therefore, is squarely on the learners. They are the ones who stand to gain most, and all of the efforts form part of an ecosystemic approach that we are taking to ensure that every learner succeeds. Now, I know that is something that has rhetorically been a phrase that has been used rhetorically for many years across the Caribbean. Every learner succeeds, every learner must succeed. It's all well and good to say that. The proof of the pudding is really what do you do to guarantee that every learner can succeed? And we invite members of the public, colleagues, parents who are online to keep tuned to the OECS website, www.oecs.int. Sign up to receive updates because you will be seeing in very rapid succession, these initiatives start to roll out. We are on steroids to get these systems in place because we recognize that time is of the essence and every minute counts.
Thank you, Dr. Jules. Every minute surely does count. Minister Alfred, this next question is for you. Being one of the architects of the OECS Pearl and having such a very integral role, how will this program change our education system? What will be some of the most visible developments?
Good morning, everybody, again, and let me just extend a special welcome to our new Minister of Education from St. Lucia. Nice to meet you. Especially for us in Dominica, this is not something that is beginning for us from ground zero. For us, it's like, voila, this is what we wanted because we were working on our new education plan, a sector plan, And in Dominica, there's a move towards universal early childhood education by the next school year. So what this program does is it facilitates us into fast forward mode with some of the things we wanted to do for early childhood education. All the primary schools that we're renovating now will include an early childhood center. And in every area where there's not early childhood facility, we are trying to put one there. So with one of the objectives of this program being to improve early childhood, that is facilitating us. And I am hoping that the other OECS countries are having the same sentiments as it pertains to early childhood, especially in the more vulnerable areas in the country. In addition to that, there's a campaign going on now by us to include the special needs students as much as possible in the normal classroom stream. But we had our challenges. So now what we are doing, we are installing special washrooms for special education. We are putting in ramps. We are making sure students have special tables and special hand washing areas, especially with COVID-19, specially fitted for children with special needs. So this now is all what for us in every area of what we were focusing on is like a catalyst. It's like what we were most wanting at this time that is what this program does for us. We are happy to report that we have a special needs student who is now in university. We have 3 special needs students at the Dominica State College that we have to cater for. We have 11 of them in the primary school system that we have to cater for, and 17 that we have in the primary school so far. So special arrangements have to be made for the students, and this program facilitates that for us. And we think that if our infants and our special needs students are given attention, that is going to have a long-lasting effect for us. We are into curriculum review too. Ministry of Education in Dominica is exceptionally busy. We are into curriculum review with the view to making our students more psychosocial competent, more resilient and independent. So as we move into piloting our civics aspect of the curriculum, this program also facilitates that for us. The civics curriculum is important for us because more and more we're seeing, not just in Dominica, but I feel in all the OECS country, people are less patriotic, and the nationalism, the nationhood you look for, we are losing that because I suppose we can't stay there and discuss cultural infiltration and TV and the rest. So what this program does for us is to help us to run this pilot of the civics curriculum, and we have modules that we are adding to HFLE and social studies on financial management. Money wasn't made to spend, money was made to manage. And for too many of our people, money is to be spent. And we are happy that we are moving into this program, because when you look at it in Dominica, everybody is going to benefit from this program, because now we have to run training programs for our parents on online learning, how to supervise your child, how to make sure they're on. We do our PTAs. Every school in Dominica now has a Zoom account. So people do PTAs online, and so it's a whole lot of training and excitement. And for us, that was the one of the challenges that we had, lack of finance. That challenge is now not a challenge anymore because of this program. So even now when we're, I take over, even now when we are moving into the new structuring, management structure at the secondary school, that program is also an answer to some of the challenges. Because at our secondary schools, we have principals, and then principals decide who will be their deputy. Deputies can change. If there's an argument between principal and deputy, you're no longer deputy. So what we have done, we have created positions to establish certain positions at secondary schools. So you have deputy principals, assistant deputy principals, school counselors, and heads of departments. So we just completed our interviews this week, and we are going now to train these people. So when we see on that program, one of those pillars, training to improve management at schools, then you see where we fall again right into that thing, because now we are going to run the training for all these new people who are going to be deputies, so they can understand now what their job description is, because we never had a job description for these people. Every school did what their principal told them to do. So therefore, we can't wait. We can't wait for us to just start rolling with these things. We are now in the mode of let us roll now. And I'm hoping that the other 3 countries, that is the mode we are in. We are not in preparation mode. We are in let's roll mode. I'll stop now.
Thank you, Madam Minister. I know you're very excited about the rollout of the OECS Pearl. So I'm going to invite Mr. Albertine to take these next 2 questions. We have a question from Jordan Norbert on Facebook asking, is this initiative only geared toward the primary and early childhood divisions? And I will ask you as well, Mr. Albertine, we do have a question from UNICEF on our webinar. How are children living with disabilities going to benefit from the OECS Pearl?
Thank you for those 2 questions from, I think, Jordan. Did you mention Jordan and from UNICEF?
Yes, Jordan Robert and a question from UNICEF.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, to answer Jordan's question, yes, the focus is on the early childhood level and the primary. Some of the training for principals, for leadership positions may be extended, as the minister suggested, to some persons at the secondary. But essentially, the focus is on early childhood and primary. I think the strategy is that if we were to get that those first 2 levels right, we get students ready for learning, then I think they would be in a better position. The theory is that they'll be in a better position to benefit from secondary. So the changes that we're doing in curriculum, the new structures that will be built, the new assessment modalities, all of those are to help strengthen the primary and early childhood sector and to make it possible for more children, certainly from the ECD sector, to join in. Regarding UNICEF's question, thank you, our colleagues from UNICEF. This time, I think it's one of the first times that we have a regional program that actually gives specific attention to special education needs students. These are the students who, for one reason or the other, are disabled, either cognitively or physically. It could be auditory problems, it could be visual problems. The program targets that group for the first time. And our issue here is that in the region, we are not very sure of who those people are, where they are, what types of disabilities they have, what support that the schools provide to them, how easily it is for them to access the support, what challenges that they have in accessing the learning institutions. So one of the first things that we're seeking to do this time around is to do a comprehensive survey that would give us a sense of what is the situation regarding our special needs students. As I said, who are they, where they are, what needs, etc. And so once we have determined what those are, then the program is going to be not modified, but there are elements of the program that will help to meet those needs. For example, we know that one of the critical needs is the need for learning devices, learning to support the visually impaired, for example, or learning to support those who can't hear very well. And so the program will seek to provide devices that will help them better participate in the learning because those devices will assist them accordingly. So once we've done the surveys, the plan is going to be sort of augmented and then implemented to support those students. Thank you, UNICEF, for this question.
Thank you, Mr. Albertine. Now, don't go anywhere, we have our final question, because again, we're running a little bit tight on time, but I thought it was a very pertinent question from Michael Seaman. He is asking, what measures do we have in place to monitor this program? Now, I know he referred specifically to Dominica, but let us broaden the question. What measures do we have in place to monitor this program across the 4 OECS member states?
Thanks again. Thanks, Michael, for this. Did I say Michael? I hope I had it correct.
Yes, Michael.
Yes. There is in place, even before, as part of the development of the program, part of the planning process, there is a monitoring and evaluation framework that has been developed. And that framework has targets, it has outputs that we seeking to achieve. For example, and I need to say that the big difference between this program and previous programs is the focus on outcomes. So what is it do we say that we want to achieve at the end of the program? Do we want to achieve to ensure that children learn better? Do we want to ensure that all children, as we say, can learn? And so what we've done is that we've set ourselves targets, for example, learning targets. Where are our children now in terms of their language competencies, in terms of the mathematics competencies? So what we have done is that we have set our baselines, that is, where are we now, yeah, in terms of key educational outcomes. And so over the 5 years, we will be measuring progress towards those various outcomes. And I want to mention here again that a key feature of this is that whereas in previous programs, our reporting sort of suggested that we did this, we did that, we ran training, we held a workshop there, we bought some equipment over there. The focus is, whereas those are important, we have changed the focus to where are we in terms of how children are able to read one paragraph very well, or how the sales children are able to read that paragraph with a full understanding of what the paragraph is and those kind of things. So it is an outcomes-based approach where the monitoring framework that has developed has a set of targets, I think over 50 targets that we will be monitoring over time and see how improvements will be made. By country, and by the way, it's not only those 4 member states, because the other OECS member states will be benefiting, by the way, those targets will be applied to them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Albertine. I am smiling so much because I can just tell the passion that all of you have for our education sector, for our teachers, our students, and I am sure our viewers can feel that as well. To all the people who joined us on Facebook and on YouTube, thank you very much. Thank you so much to all of you who are on our webinar with us. I really do hope you are as excited about the OECS Pearl as we all seem to be right now. And we look forward to connecting with you, our stakeholders. This has been fantastic. On behalf of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Commission, I am Alicia Ali, reminding you that we are one community growing together. Thank you.